Good morning and welcome back to Reading Wikis for You, where we read the wiki articles for you. And today we're going to take a look at the Los Angeles Rams. We are coming down to the final few episodes of the teams of the NFL. I think we are going through, actually ends up going through like mid-April, but we are closing in on finishing out this series. I'm actually kind of excited because I've been managing to keep this routine up. So, regardless, really excited about this. So, do me a favor while I'm reading. Let me know what you think we should start next. Personally, I'm leaning towards the Major League Baseball teams, but if there's a different series that you'd rather I start, let me know and we'll see if we can work that into the schedule. But with that said, don't forget, hit the like button if you enjoy these videos. Make sure you're subscribed if you'd like to continue to receive them. I do put out a new video every single day, and I'd love for you to come along. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. The Los Angeles Rams are a professional American football team based in the greater Los Angeles area. The Rams compete in the National Football League as a member of the National Football Conference West Division. The team plays its home games at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, which it shares with the Los Angeles Chargers. They are headquartered at the Rams Village at Warner Center in Los Angeles. The franchise was founded in 1936 as the Cleveland Rams in Cleveland, Ohio. The franchise won the 1945 NFL Championship game, then moved to Los Angeles in 1946, making way for Paul Brown's Cleveland Browns of the All-America Football Conference and becoming the only NFL championship team to play the following season in another city. The club played its home game at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum until 1980, when it moved into a reconstructed Anaheim Stadium in Orange County, California. The Rams made their first Super Bowl appearance at the end of the 1979 NFL season, losing Super Bowl 14 to the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-19. After the 1994 NFL season, the Rams left Southern California and moved to St. Louis, Missouri, becoming the St. Louis Rams. 5 seasons later, the team defeated the Tennessee Titans to win Super Bowl 34, 23-16, in the first season of the Greatest Show on Turf era, in which they also made Super Bowl 36, but lost 20-17 to the New England Patriots. After the 2015 NFL season, the team sought and received approval from the other owners to move back to Los Angeles in time for the 2016 NFL season. The Rams appeared in Super Bowl 53, but lost to the Patriots 13-3. 3 years later, the Rams defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 to win Super Bowl 56, becoming the second NFL team to win the Super Bowl in its home stadium. The club is the only NFL franchise to win championships representing 3 different cities: Cleveland in 1945, St. Louis in 1999, and Los Angeles in 1951 and 2021. History: Cleveland Rams, 1936 to 1945. The Cleveland Rams were founded on April 11, 1936 by Ohio attorney Homer Marshman and player-coach Damon Wetzel, a former Ohio State star who played briefly for the Chicago Bears and Pittsburgh Pirates. Wetzel, who served as general manager, selected the Rams because his favorite college football team was the Fordham Rams from Fordham University. Marshman, the principal owner, also liked the name choice. The team was part of the newly formed American Football League and finished the 1936 regular season in second place with a 5-2-2 record, trailing only the 8-3 record of league champion Boston Shamrocks. The team featured players such as William Bud Cooper, Harry the Horse Matos, Stan Pincura, and Mike Sebastian. The Rams joined the National Football League on February 12, 1937, and were assigned to the Western Division. The Rams would be the fourth in a string of short-lived teams based in Cleveland, following the Cleveland Tigers, Cleveland Bulldogs, and Cleveland Indians. From the beginning, they were a team marked by frequent moves, playing in 3 stadiums over several losing seasons. However, the team featured the most valuable player of the 1939 season, rookie halfback Parker Hall. In June 1941, the Rams were bought by Dan Reeves and Fred Levy Jr. Reeves, an heir to his family's grocery chain business that had been purchased by Safeway, used some of his inheritance to buy his share of the team. Levy's family owned the Levy Brothers department store chain in Kentucky, and he came to own the Riverside International Raceway. Levy owned part of the Rams with Bob Hope, another of the owners, until Reeves bought out his partners in 1962. The franchise suspended operations and sat out the 1943 season because of a shortage of players during World War II and resumed playing in 1944. NFL champions 1945. The team finally achieved success in 1945, which was their last season in Ohio. Adam Walsh took over as head coach that season. Quarterback Bob Waterfield, a rookie from UCLA, passed, ran, and place-kicked his way to the league's Most Valuable Player award, which was known as the Joe F. Carr Trophy back then, and helped the Rams achieve a 9-1 record and win their first NFL championship, a 15-14 home field victory over the Washington Redskins on December 16th. The margin of victory was provided by a safety. Redskins great Sammy Baugh's pass bounced off the goal post, then backward through his team's own end zone. The next season, NFL rules were changed to prevent this from ever again resulting in a score. Instead, it would merely result in an incomplete pass. Original tenure in Los Angeles, 1946 to 1994. On January 12, 1946, Reeves was denied a request by the other NFL owners to move the Cleveland Rams to Los Angeles, and then the 103,000-seat Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. He threatened to end his relationship with the NFL and get out of the professional football business altogether unless the transfer to Los Angeles was permitted. A settlement was reached, and as a result, Reeves was allowed to move his team to Los Angeles. Consequently, the NFL became the first professional coast-to-coast sports entertainment industry. From 1933, when Joe Lillard left the Chicago Cardinals, through 1946, there were no black players in professional American football. After the Rams had received approval to move to Los Angeles, they entered into negotiations to lease the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Rams were advised that a precondition to them getting a lease was that they would have to integrate the team with at least one African American. The Rams agreed. Subsequently, the Rams signed Kenny Washington on March 21, 1946. The signing of Washington caused all hell to break loose among the owners of the NFL franchises. The Rams added a second black player, Woody Strode, on May 7, 1946, giving them two black players going into the 1946 season. The Rams were the first team in the NFL to play in Los Angeles, but they were not the only professional team to play its home games in the Coliseum between 1946 and 1949. The upstart All-America Football Conference had the Los Angeles Dons compete there as well. Reeves was taking a gamble that Los Angeles was ready for its own professional football team, and suddenly there were two in the City of Angels. Reeves was proven to be correct when the Rams played their first preseason game against the Washington Redskins in front of a crowd of 95,000 fans. The team finished their first season in LA with a 6-4-1 record, second place behind the Chicago Bears. At the end of the season, Walsh resigned as head coach. The Coliseum was home for the Rams for more than 30 years, but the facility was already over 20 years old on the day of the first kickoff. Bob Snyder coached the team for one season. In 1947, he led the team to a 6-6 record and a fourth-place finish in the NFC West. In 1948, halfback Fred Gurkey painted horns on the Rams' helmet, making the first helmet emblem in pro football. In 1948, Clark Shaughnessy took over as head coach and led the team to a 6-5-1 record. Late in 1949, the Dons were folded into the Rams when the All-America Football Conference ceased operations. NFL champions, 1951. The Rams' heyday in Southern California was from 1949 to 1955, when they played in the pre-Super Bowl era NFL championship game 4 times, winning once in 1951. During this period, they had the best offense in the NFL, even though there was a quarterback change from Bob Waterfield to Norm Van Brocklin in 1951. The defending offensive players of this period were wide receiver Elroy Hirsch, Van Brocklin, and Waterfield. Teamed with fellow Hall of Famer Tom Fears, Hirsch helped create the style of Rams football as one of the first big play receivers. During the 1951 championship season, Hirsch posted a stunning 1,495 receiving yards with 17 touchdowns. In 1950, the popularity of this wide-open offense enabled the Los Angeles Rams to become the first pro football team to have all their games televised. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the Rams went from being the only major professional sports franchise in Southern California and Los Angeles to being one of 5. The Los Angeles Dodgers moved from Brooklyn in 1958. The Los Angeles Chargers of the upstart AFL was established in 1960. The Los Angeles Lakers moved from Minneapolis in 1960. And the Los Angeles Angels were awarded to Gene Autry in 1961. In spite of this, the Rams continued to thrive in Southern California. In the first 2 years after the Dodgers moved to California, the Rams drew an average of 83,681 in 1958 and 74,069 in 1959. The Rams were so popular in Los Angeles that the upstart Chargers chose to move to San Diego rather than attempt to compete with the Rams. The Los Angeles Times put the Chargers' plight as such, quote, Hilton, the Chargers owner at the time, quickly realized that taking on the Rams in LA was like beating his head against the wall, unquote. During this time, the Rams were not as successful on the field as they had been during their first decade. The team's combined record from 1957 to 1964 was 24, 35, and 1, but the Rams continued to fill the cavernous Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum regularly. While the National Football League's average attendance ranged from the low 30,000s to the low 40,000s during this time, the Rams were drawing anywhere from 10 to 40,000 fans more than the league average. In 1957, the Rams set all-time NFL attendance records that stood until 2006 and broke the 100,000 mark twice during the 1958 campaign. The 1960s were defined by the great defensive line of Rosie Greer, Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, and Lamar Lundy, dubbed the Fearsome Foursome. It was this group of players who restored the on-field luster of the franchise in 1967 when the Rams reached, but lost, the conference championship under head coach George Allen. That 1967 squad became the first NFL team to surpass 1 million spectators in a season, a feat the Rams repeated the following year. In each of those 2 years, the LA Rams drew roughly double the number of fans that could be accommodated by their current stadium for a full season. George Allen led the Rams from 1966 to 1970 and introduced many innovations, including the hiring of a young Dick Vermeil as one of the first special teams coaches. Though Allen would enjoy 5 straight winning seasons and win 2 divisional titles in his time with the Rams, he never won a playoff game with the team, losing in 1967 to Green Bay 28-7 and in 1969 23-20 to Minnesota. Allen would leave after the 1970 season to take the head coaching job for the Washington Redskins. Quarterback Roman Gabriel played 11 seasons for the Rams from 1962 to 1972. From 1967 to 1971, Gabriel led the Rams to either a first or second place finish in their division every year. He was voted the MVP of the NFL in 1969 for a season in which he threw 2,549 yards and 24 touchdowns while leading the Rams to the playoffs. During the 1970 season, Gabriel combined with his primary receiver Jack Snow for 51 receptions totaling 859 yards. This was the best of their 8 seasons as teammates. In 1972, Chicago industrialist Robert Ursay purchased the Rams for $19 million, then traded the franchise to Carroll Rosenblum for his Baltimore Colts in cash. The Rams remained solid contenders in the 1970s, winning 7 straight NFC West championships between 1973 and 1979. Though they clearly were the class of the NFC in the 1970s, along with the Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings, they lost the first 4 conference championship games they played in that decade, losing twice each to Minnesota and Dallas and failing to win a league championship. Chuck Knox, Ray Malavasi years, 1973 to 1982. The Rams' head coach for this run was Chuck Knox, who led the team through 1977. His teams featured unremarkable offenses carried into the playoffs annually by elite defensive units. The defining player of the 1970s Los Angeles Rams was Jack Youngblood. Youngblood was called the perfect defensive end by fellow Hall of Famer Merlin Olsen. His toughness was legendary, notably by playing on a broken leg during the Rams' run to the Super Bowl following the 1979 NFL season. His blue-collar ethic stood in opposition to the perception that the Rams were a soft Hollywood team. However, several Rams players from this period took advantage of their proximity to Hollywood and crossed over into acting after their playing careers ended. Most notable of these was Fred Dryer, who starred in the TV series Hunter from 1984 to 1991, as well as Olsen, who retired after 1976, starred in Little House on the Prairie. During the 1977 offseason, the Rams, looking for a veteran quarterback, acquired Joe Namath from the Jets. In spite of a 2-1 start to the regular season, Namath's bad knees rendered him nearly immobile, and after a Monday night defeat in Chicago, he never played again. With Pat Hayden at the helm, the Rams won the division with a 10-4 record and advanced to the playoffs, but lost at home to Minnesota 14-7. Chuck Knox left for the Bills in 1978, after which Ray Malavasi became head coach. Going 12-4, the team won the NFC West for the 6th year in a row and defeated the Vikings, thus avenging their earlier playoff defeat. However, success eluded them again as they were shut out of the NFC Championship by the Cowboys. It was the Rams' weakest divisional winner, an aging 1979 team with a 9-7 record, that achieved the team's greatest success in that period. Led by third-year quarterback Vince Ferragamo, the Rams shocked the heavily favored and two-time defending NFC champion Dallas Cowboys 21-19 in the divisional playoffs, then shut out the upstart Tampa Bay Buccaneers 9-0 in the conference championship game to win the NFC and reach their first Super Bowl. Along with Ferragamo, key players for the Rams were halfback Wendell Tyler, offensive lineman Jackie Slater, and Pro Bowl defenders Jack Youngblood and Jack Hacksaw Reynolds. The Rams' opponent in their first Super Bowl was the defending champion Pittsburgh Steelers. The game was a virtual home game for the Rams as it was played in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. Although some odds makers set the Rams as a 10.5-point underdog, the Rams played Pittsburgh very tough, leading at halftime 13-10 and at the end of the third quarter 19-17. In the end, however, the Steelers asserted themselves, scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and shutting down the Rams' offense to win their fourth Super Bowl 31-19. Before the 1979 NFL season, owner Carroll Rosenblum died in a drowning accident, and his widow, Georgia Frontier, inherited 70% ownership of the team. Frontier then fired stepson Steve Rosenblum and assumed total control of Rams operations, as had been planned before Rosenblum's death. The Rams moved from their longtime home at the Coliseum to Anaheim Stadium in nearby Orange County in 1980. The reason for the move was twofold. First, the NFL's blackout rule in effect then forbade games from being shown on local television if they did not sell out within 72 hours of the opening kickoff. As the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum seated 92,604 at the time, it was rarely possible to sell that many tickets even in the Rams' best years, and so most Rams home games were blacked out. Second, this move was following the population pattern in Southern California. During the 1970s and 80s, the decline of manufacturing industries in the northeastern United States, combined with the desire of many people to live in a warmer climate, caused a large-scale population shift to the southern and western states. As a result, many affluent new suburbs were built in the Los Angeles area. Anaheim Stadium was originally built in 1966 to be the home of the California Angels. To accommodate the Rams' move, the ballpark was reconfigured and enclosed to accommodate a capacity of 69,008. In the football configuration, with their new, smaller home, the Rams had no problem selling out games. In 1980, the team posted an 11-5 record, but only managed a wild card spot and were sent packing after a 34-13 loss to the Cowboys. Age and injuries finally caught up with the Rams in 1981, as they only won 6 games and missed the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. Adding to the woes was Ferragamo being wrested away by the CFL's Montreal Alouettes that year. After the 1982 season was shortened to 9 games by a strike, the Rams went 2-7, the worst record in the NFC. In 1982, the Oakland Raiders moved to Los Angeles and took up residence in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The combined effect of these two moves was to divide the Rams' traditional fan base in two. This was coupled with the early 1980s being rebuilding years for the club, while the Raiders were winners of Super Bowl XVIII in the 1983 season. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers won championships in 1980 and 1982, en route to winning 5 titles in that decade. In the MLB, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series in 1981 and 88, and even in the NHL, the Los Angeles Kings made a deep run in the playoffs in 1982 and acquired fan interest following the arrival of Wayne Gretzky in 88. As a result, the Rams declined sharply in popularity during the 80s, despite being playoff contenders for most of the decade. John Robinson years, 1983 to 1991. The hiring of coach John Robinson in 1983 provided a needed boost for pro football in Orange County. The former University of Southern California coach began by cutting the aged veterans left over from the 1970s teams. His rebuilding program began to show results when the team rebounded to 9-7 in 1983 and defeated Dallas in the playoffs. However, the season ended after a rout at the hands of the defending champion Redskins. Another trip to the playoffs in 1984 saw them lose to the Giants. They made the NFC Championship game in 1985 after winning the division, where they were shut out by the eventual champion Chicago Bears 24-0. The most notable player for the Rams during that period was running back Eric Dickerson, who was drafted in 1983 out of Southern Methodist University and won the Rookie of the Year award. In 1984, Dickerson rushed for 2,105 yards, setting an NFL record. Dickerson ended his 5 hugely successful years for the Rams in 1987 by being traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a number of players and draft picks after a bitter contract dispute. Shortly after the players' strike that year ended. Dickerson was the Rams' career rushing leader until 2010 with 7,245 yards. Despite this trade, the Rams remained contenders due to the arrival of the innovative offensive leadership of Ernie Zampese. Zampese brought the intricate timing routes he had used in making the San Diego Chargers a state-of-the-art offense. Under Zampese, the Rams rose steadily from 28th rated offense in 1986 to 3rd in 1990. The late 1980s Rams featured a gifted young quarterback in Jim Everett, a solid rushing attack, and a fleet of talented wide receivers led by Henry Ellard and Flipper Anderson. After a 10-6 season in 1986, the Rams were booted from the playoffs by Washington. After one game of the 1987 season was lost to the players' strike, the NFL employed substitutes, most of which were given derogatory nicknames. After a 2-1 record, the Rams regulars returned, but the team only went 6-9 and did not qualify for the postseason. The Rams managed to return in 1988 with a 10-6 record, but then were defeated by Minnesota in the wild card round. Los Angeles won the first 5 games of 1989, including a sensational defeat of the defending champion 49ers. They beat the Eagles in the wild card game, then beat the Giants in overtime before suffering a 30-3 flogging at the hands of the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Although it was not apparent at the time, the 1989 NFC Championship game was the end of an era. The Rams did not have another winning season for the rest of their first tenure in Los Angeles before moving to St. Louis. They crumbled to 5-11 in 1990, followed by a 3-13 season in 1991. Chuck Knox returns 1992 to 1994. Robinson resigned at the end of the 1991 season. However, the return of Chuck Knox as head coach after his successful stints as head coach of the Buffalo Bills and Seattle Seahawks did not boost the Rams' sagging fortunes. In his first season back, he led the team to a 6-10 record in 1992. His run-oriented offense marked the end of the Zampese tenure with a 5-11 record in 1993. Knox's game plans called for an offense that was steady, if unspectacular. Unfortunately for the Rams, Knox's offense was not only aesthetically unpleasing but dull as well, especially by 1990 standards. The Rams finished last in the NFC West during all 3 years of Knox's second stint. As the losses piled up and the team was seen playing uninspired football, the Rams' already dwindling fan base was reduced even further. By 1994, support for the Rams had withered to the point where they were barely part of the Los Angeles sports landscape. With sellouts becoming fewer and far between, the Rams saw more of their games blacked out in Southern California. One of the few bright spots during this time was Jerome Bettis, a bruising running back from Notre Dame, earning the nickname the Battering Ram. Bettis flourished as the only bright spot in Knox's offense, running for 1,429 yards as a rookie and 1,025 in his sophomore effort. As had become increasingly common with sports franchises, the Rams began to blame much of their misfortune on the stadium situation. Anaheim Stadium was primarily suited for baseball, so the sight lines for football were deemed inadequate. With Orange County mired in a deep recession resulting largely from defense sector layoffs, the Rams were unable to secure a new or improved stadium in the Los Angeles area, which ultimately cast their future in Southern California into doubt. By 1995, the Rams fan base in Southern California had withered to a shadow of its former self. Accusations and excuses were constantly thrown back and forth between the Rams fan base, ownership, and local politicians. Many fans heavily blamed the ownership of Georgia Frontier for the franchise's woes, while ownership cited the outdated stadium and withering fan support as direct factors. Frontier quickly gave up and decided to move the Rams franchise to St. Louis. However, on March 15, 1995, the other league owners rejected her bid to move the franchise by a 21-3-6 vote. Commissioner Paul Tagliabue stated after rejecting the move, quote, "This was one of the most complex issues we have had to approach in years. We had to balance the interest of fans in Los Angeles and in St. Louis that we appreciate very much. In my judgment, they did not meet the guidelines we have in place for such a move." The commissioner also added, "Once the bridges have been burned and people get turned off on a sports franchise, years of loyalty is not respected and it is difficult to get it back. By the same token, there are millions of fans in that area who have supported the Rams in an extraordinary way. The Rams have 50 years of history, and the last 5 or so years of difficult times can be corrected." However, Frontier responded with a thinly veiled threat at a lawsuit. The owners eventually acquiesced to her demands, wary of going through a long, protracted legal battle. Tagliabue simply stated that, quote, "The desire to have peace and not be at war was a big factor," unquote, in allowing the Rams to move to go forward. In a matter of a month, the vote had gone from 21-6 opposed to 23-6 in favor, with the Raiders, who left the Coliseum and returned to Oakland later in 1995, abstaining. Jonathan Kraft, son of Patriots owner Robert Kraft, elaborated on the commissioner's remarks by saying that, quote, about 5 or 6 owners didn't want to get the other owners into litigation, so they switched their votes, unquote. Only 6 franchises remained in opposition to the Rams' move from Los Angeles: the Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, New York Jets, Buffalo Bills, Arizona Cardinals, who had played in St. Louis from 1960 to 1987, and the Washington Redskins. After the vote was over, Dan Rooney publicly stated that he opposed the move of the Los Angeles Rams because, quote, I believe we should support the fans who have supported us for years, unquote. St. Louis Rams, 1995 to 2015. The 1995 and 96 seasons, the Rams' first 2 in St. Louis, were under the direction of former Oregon Ducks head coach Rich Brooks. The team went 7-9 in 1995 and 6-10 in 1996. Their most prolific player from the first 2 seasons was fan favorite Isaac Bruce. Dick Vermeil, Mike Martz years, 1997 to 2005. In 1997, Dick Vermeil was hired as the head coach. That same year, the Rams traded up in the 1997 NFL Draft to select future All-Pro offensive tackle Orlando Pace. The team would struggle to find success in the first 2 seasons with Vermeil under the helm, going 5-11 in 97 and 4-12 in 98. Super Bowl 34 champions, 1999. The 1999 season started with quarterback Trent Green injuring his leg in preseason play, which left him sidelined for the entire season. The starting job fell to backup Kurt Warner, who came out of college as an undrafted free agent, and whose career had included stints with the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena Football League and the Amsterdam Admirals of NFL Europe. Vermeil told the public that the Rams would rally around Kurt Warner and play good football. Warner synced up with Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce to lead the Rams to one of the most prolific offenses in history, posting 526 points for the season. This was the beginning of what would later become known as the greatest show on turf. Warner shocked the league by throwing for 41 touchdowns. This led the Rams to Super Bowl 34, where they beat the Tennessee Titans 23-16. Warner was named the most valuable player of the Super Bowl. Following the Rams' win, Vermeil retired, and Vermeil's offensive coordinator, Mike Martz, was hired as head coach. He managed to take the Rams to Super Bowl 36, where the team lost to the New England Patriots 20-17. Martz helped the Rams establish a pass-first identity that posted an NFL record number of points over the course of 3 seasons. However, in the first round in the 2004 draft, the Rams chose Oregon State running back Steven Jackson as the 24th pick of the draft. Although the Rams were one of the most productive teams in NFL history at the time, head coach Martz was criticized by many as careless with game management. He often feuded with several players, as well as team president and general manager Jay Zygmunt. However, most of his players respected him and went on record saying that they enjoyed him as a coach. In 2005, Martz was ill and was hospitalized for several games, allowing head coach Joe Vitt to coach the remainder of the season. Although Martz was cleared later in the season, team president John Shaw did not allow him to come back to coach the team. After the Rams fired Martz, former Minnesota offensive coordinator Scott Linehan took control of an 8-8 team in 2006. In 2007, Linehan led the Rams to a 3-13 record. Following the 2007 season, Georgia Frontiere died on January 18, 2008, after a 28-year ownership that began in 1979. Ownership of the team passed to her son Dale Chip Rosenblum and daughter Lucia Rodriguez. Chip Rosenblum was named the new Rams majority owner. Linehan was already faced with scrutiny from several players in the locker room, including Torrey Holt and Steve Jackson. Linehan was then fired on September 29, 2008, after the team started the season 0-4. Jim Haslett, defensive coordinator under Linehan, was interim head coach for the rest of the 2008 season. John Shaw then resigned as president, and personnel chief Billy Devaney was promoted to general manager on December 24, 2008, after the resignation of former president of football operations and general manager Jay Zygmunt on December 22nd. On January 17, 2009, Steve Spagnuolo was named the new head coach of the franchise. In his previous post as defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, Spagnuolo masterminded a defensive scheme that shut down the potent offense of the previously undefeated and untied New England Patriots, the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl that year. In one of the greatest upsets in Super Bowl history, the New York Giants defeated the Patriots 17-14. In spite of his success as defensive coordinator with the Giants, Spagnuolo's first season as head coach of the Rams was disappointing, as the team won only once in 16 attempts. On May 31st, 2009, St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported that the majority owners, Rosenblum and Rodriguez, officially offered their majority share of Rams for sale. They retained the services of Goldman Sachs, a prominent investment banking firm, to help facilitate the sale of the Rams by evaluating bids and soliciting potential buyers. The sale price was unknown, but at the time, Forbes magazine's most recent estimate listed the Rams' value at $929 million. On the final day to do so, then minority owner Stan Kroenke invoked his right of first refusal to buy the 60% of the team that he did not already own. The original intended buyer, Shahid Khan, later acquired the Jacksonville Jaguars after the 2011 season. Pursuant to NFL rules, owners are prohibited from owning other sports teams in markets where there is already an NFL team. At the time of purchase, Kroenke, doing business as Kroenke Sports Enterprises, owned the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Colorado Rapids, and the Pepsi Center. Kroenke, a real estate and sports mogul married to a Walmart heir, also owned Altitude Sports and Entertainment. These interests violated the NFL's cross-ownership rule. Nevertheless, on August 25, 2010, NFL owners unanimously approved him as the owner of the franchise, contingent upon his eventual divestment of his Colorado sports interests. Kroenke complied with the rule when he transferred ownership of the Nuggets, Avalanche, the Pepsi Center, and the Altitude to his son, Josh Kroenke. The Rams received the first pick in the 2010 NFL Draft after finishing the 2009 season with a 1-15 record. The team used the pick to select quarterback Sam Bradford from the University of Oklahoma. The Rams finished the 2010 season second in the NFC West with a record of 7-9. Bradford started all 16 games for the Rams after earning the starting position during the preseason. On October 24, 2010, running back Steven Jackson passed Eric Dickerson as the franchise's career rushing leader. On February 4, 2011, Bradford was named the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year. He received 44 out of 50 possible votes from the nationwide panel of media members. The team and fans held high expectations for the upcoming season, but due to injuries to starters and poor execution, the Rams fell to a 2-14 record for the 2011 season. On January 2, 2012, head coach Spagnuolo and general manager Devaney were fired. McDaniels also left the team and returned to New England to become their offensive coordinator for the 2012 season. Under the terms of the lease that the Rams signed in St. Louis, the Edward Jones Dome was required to be ranked in the top tier of NFL stadiums through the 2015 seasons. The Rams were free to break the lease and either move without penalty or continue to lease the Dome on a year-to-year basis. In May 2012, the Dome was ranked by Time magazine as the 7th worst major sports stadium in the United States. In a 2008 Sports Illustrated poll, St. Louis fans ranked it the worst of any NFL stadium, with particularly low marks for tailgating, affordability, and atmosphere. On January 20th, 2012, it was announced the Rams would play one home game a season at Wembley Stadium in London for each of the next 3 seasons. The first game was played against the New England Patriots on October 28, 2012. On August 13, 2012, it was announced that the Rams had withdrawn from the 2013 and 14 games. At this time, the Rams began negotiations with St. Louis about what steps could be taken to remediate the top-tier requirement of the lease. On March 10, 2015, the Rams traded starting quarterback Sam Bradford and a 2015 fifth-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for Eagles quarterback Nick Foles, a 2015 fourth-round pick, and a second-round pick in 2016. Foles had a 14-4 record as starter of the Eagles and an impressive touchdown to the interception ratio of 46-17, while Bradford had an 18-30-1 record with the Rams. In the 2015 NFL Draft, the Rams drafted running back Todd Gurley. After Gurley was drafted, the Rams traded Zach Stacy to the New York Jets on May 2nd for a 7th-round pick. Stacy had led the team in rushing in 2013. The stadium top-tier negotiations failed to produce a solution to keep the Rams in St. Louis for the long term. On December 17, 2015, the Rams defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23 in their final home game in St. Louis. Their last game as the St. Louis Rams came 2 weeks later on the road against the San Francisco 49ers before moving back to Los Angeles for the 2016 season. Fans in St. Louis claimed Kroenke, a Missouri native, as well as Kevin Demoff, lied to the fans about their wishes to keep the Rams in St. Louis. In his final years, Kroenke was referred to as Silent Stan since he refused to speak about the team and the potential move. In a last-ditch effort, St. Louis came up with a viable stadium plan to keep the team, but the NFL and the Rams' position was that the Rams followed the agreed-upon remediation process laid out in the Edward Jones Dome lease, and that St. Louis' hastily put together plan shifted too much of the stadium costs to the Rams franchise. Ultimately, the other NFL teams' owners voted to allow the Rams to move to Los Angeles. Return to Los Angeles 2016 to present. On January 5, 2015, the Los Angeles Times reported that Kroenke and the Stockbridge Capital Group were partnering to develop a new NFL stadium on an Inglewood property owned by Kroenke. In February 24, 2015, the Inglewood City Council approved the stadium and the initiative, with construction on the stadium planned to begin in December 2015. The Rams moved to their new stadium in Inglewood in 2020. The day following the conclusion of the 2015 regular season, the Rams, Oakland Raiders, and San Diego Chargers all filed to move to Los Angeles. The same day, the NFL announced that any franchise that decided to move would have to pay a $550 million fee. On January 12, 2016, the NFL team owners voted 30-2 to allow the Rams to return to Los Angeles. The Rams were the first Major League sports team to move since 2011, when the National Hockey League's Atlanta Thrashers left Atlanta and became the new Winnipeg Jets. The team held a press conference at the Forum in Inglewood on January 15, 2016, to announce its return to Los Angeles to start play in the 2016 season, and on that day the Rams began a campaign that lasted through February 8th and resulted in more than 56,000 season ticket deposits made. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum was the temporary home stadium of the Rams for 4 seasons, until SoFi Stadium was opened for the 2020 season. On February 4, 2016, the Los Angeles Rams selected Oxnard to be the site of their mini-camp off-season team activities and off-season program that began on April 18th. In March, it was announced that the Rams would be featured on HBO's Hard Knocks. On March 30th, California Lutheran University and the Rams reached an agreement that allowed the team to have regular season training operations at CLU's campus for the next 2 years. The Rams paid for 2 practice fields, paved parking, and modular buildings constructed on the northwestern corner of the campus. On April 14, 2016, the Rams traded with the Tennessee Titans for the first overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, along with a 4th and 6th round pick in the same draft. To acquire the picks, the Rams traded away their first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and a third-round pick in 2016, and their first and third-round picks in the 2017 NFL Draft. On April 28, 2016, the Rams made their first selection in the 2016 NFL Draft by selecting California quarterback Jared Goff first overall. In June 2016, it was reported that the Rams had sold 63,000 season tickets, which was short of their goal of 70,000. Later on July 12, 2016, it was reported that they had sold 70,000 tickets, reaching their goal. In July 2016, the Rams signed a 3-year agreement with UC Irvine to use that university's facilities for training camp, with an option to extend it to 2 more years. On July 29, 2016, the Los Angeles Times reported that the Rams would host their first training camp practice and Rams Family Day on Saturday, August 6 at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which was open to the public. The Rams played their first game in the Los Angeles area since 1994, a 22-year absence, with a preseason opener against the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum on August 13th. The Rams won 28-24 in front of a crowd of 89,140, a record attendance for a preseason game. On September 12, 2016, the Rams played their first regular season game since returning to Los Angeles, where they lost to the San Francisco 49ers 28-0 at Levi's Stadium. On September 18th, in front of over 91,000 fans at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks 9-3 in their first regular season game in Los Angeles since 1994, and their first game at the Coliseum since 1979. On December 12, 2016, the team fired head coach Jeff Fisher after starting the season 4-9. The team announced later that day that John Fassel would be taking over as interim head coach. Sean McVay era, 2017 to present. On January 12, 2017, Washington Redskins offensive coordinator Sean McVay became the new head coach at the age of 30, which made him the youngest in modern NFL history, surpassing Lane Kiffin, who was 31 when hired by the Oakland Raiders in 2007. The Rams began the year 3-2, much like their previous season in Los Angeles, then won 4 games in a row, blowing out the Arizona Cardinals and New York Giants. The season saw the resurgence of Jared Goff and Todd Gurley after mediocre 2016 seasons, while new acquisitions Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, and draft selection Cooper Kupp at wide receiver had analysts comparing the 2017 Rams to the greatest show on turf Rams of the late 1990s and early 2000s. On November 26, 2017, the Rams defeated the rival New Orleans Saints 26-20. The 8th win of the season secured the franchise's first non-losing year since 2006 and their first in Los Angeles since 1989. A week later, the Rams defeated the Cardinals 32-16 to secure a winning season for the first time since 2003. On December 24th, 2017, the Rams defeated the Tennessee Titans 27-23 to clinch their first NFC West title since 2003, and their first in Los Angeles since 1985. They finished the regular season 11-5. The team lost in the first round of the playoffs 26-13 to the defending conference champion Atlanta Falcons, but the season represented a turnaround after scoring a league-worst 224 points in 2016. The Rams led the league in points scored with 478, the fourth most in team history. In the 2018 offseason, the Rams acquired Marcus Peters from the Kansas City Chiefs. The team dealt Robert Quinn to the Miami Dolphins and Alec Ogletree to the New York Giants, and lost Trumaine Johnson to the New York Jets in free agency before trading for five-time Pro Bowler Aqib Talib from the Denver Broncos. The team continued building its pass rush by signing free agent Ndamukong Suh. Many experts and analysts began to label the Rams as a serious Super Bowl contender, and the Rams continued to build for a deep postseason run by picking up wide receiver Brandon Cooks in a trade with the New England Patriots, which replaced the loss of Sammy Watkins to the Chiefs in free agency. The Rams then signed Cooks and running back Todd Gurley to 5-year extensions and offensive tackle Rob Havenstein to a 4-year extension. The Rams ended their offseason by signing defensive tackle Aaron Donald, who held out so long that he missed training camp for a second straight season. His 6-year, $135 million contract made him the highest-paid defensive player in NFL history. A record broken the following day when the Chicago Bears signed the newly acquired Khalil Mack to a $141 million extension. The Rams opened their 2018 season on September 10th by defeating the Oakland Raiders 33-13 on Monday Night Football, scoring 23 unanswered second-half points in a game during which head coach McVay took on his former mentor John Gruden, who was making his return to coaching. It was the first of 2 Monday Night Football appearances for the Rams in the season. The Rams continued their strong start with 3 straight wins at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, shutting out the Arizona Cardinals 34-0 in their home opener in Week 2, defeating the Los Angeles Chargers 35-23 in Week 3, and beating the Minnesota Vikings 38-31 on Thursday Night Football. Los Angeles then went 3-for-3 on the road at Seattle 33-31, Denver 23-20, and San Francisco 39-10. Returning home in Week 8, Los Angeles rallied to defeat the Green Bay Packers 29-27 to improve to 8-0, their best start since 1969. The Rams were the only remaining undefeated team in the NFL when they lost on the road to the New Orleans Saints in Week 9. The Rams bounced back with 3 straight wins, defeating the Seattle Seahawks 36-31, and then winning a wild 54-51 shootout against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Following a bye week, the Rams beat the host Detroit Lions 30-16 in Week 13 to clinch both a playoff berth and their second straight NFC West title. Los Angeles then stumbled with back-to-back losses to the Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles, and in the latter of those 2 games, franchise running back Todd Gurley suffered a leg injury that later led to inflammation, forcing him to miss the Rams' final 2 regular season games. But the team finished strong with victories over the Arizona Cardinals and San Francisco 49ers to clinch a first-round bye. The Rams' 13-3 record tied for the second most wins in a single season in franchise history and were the most ever for any NFL team in Los Angeles. The Rams began their playoff run by defeating the Dallas Cowboys 30-22 in the divisional round to head to the NFC Championship game for the first time since January 2002. The following week, the Rams beat the Saints on the road 26-23 to advance to the Super Bowl for the first time since Super Bowl 36 in January 2002 and since Super Bowl 14 in January 1980 as a Los Angeles team. The game featured a controversial ending. On a third down play inside the final 2 minutes with the score tied at 20, Rams quarterback Nickel Roby-Coleman made contact with Saints receiver Tommy Lee Lewis well before a pass from the Saints quarterback Drew Brees had arrived. Additionally, Roby-Coleman delivered a helmet-to-helmet hit. However, no flag was thrown for pass interference or the illegal hit, leading to outrage from Saints players and fans as this denied New Orleans a first down, which would likely have put the game out of reach. After the game, there was speculation but no clear video evidence that the pass was tipped. The Rams lost in Super Bowl 53, held at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, to the New England Patriots by a score of 13-3 in the lowest-scoring Super Bowl in history. It was the first time in 35 years that a Los Angeles team was featured in a Super Bowl. Rumors in the offseason swirled around Gurley and his knee injury, as despite a strong performance in the divisional round against the Cowboys, Gurley's performances in the NFC Championship and Super Bowl 53 were lackluster, and it was later reported after the Super Bowl that Gurley had arthritis in his knee. Nevertheless, Gurley would attempt to play a full slate in 2019. Meanwhile, the Rams' biggest free agency losses included offensive lineman Roger Saffold and John Sullivan, and defensive lineman Ndamukong Suh departed for Tampa Bay. Los Angeles' notable acquisitions during free agency included linebacker Clay Matthews and safety Eric Weddle. The Rams opened their NFC title defense with a close victory over the Carolina Panthers 30-27, and then defeated the Saints 27-9 in a highly anticipated rematch of the previous NFC Championship game. Los Angeles then won their third straight game, a tight battle with the Cleveland Browns, though quarterback Jared Goff seemed to struggle. Goff's struggles continued into the following week, where the Rams would lose a wild, high-scoring duel with the Buccaneers 40-55. Safety John Johnson, who was one of the team's strongest defensive players, suffered a season-ending injury in the loss. The Rams then met the divisional rivals Seahawks on Thursday Night Football in what was another extremely tight game, which saw Clay Matthews flagged for a controversial roughing the passer penalty on Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson, which kept Seattle's eventual winning drive alive. Greg Zoyerlin then missed a last-second field goal, which lost the game for the Rams by 1 point, 29-30. Gurley, who had suffered a quad injury against Seattle, would miss the Rams' Week 6 bout with the 49ers, in addition to Matthews and other key members of the Rams' offensive line. The depleted Rams lost 20-7, a game in which Goff was held to a career-low 78 yards passing and took 4 sacks. 2 days after the loss, cornerback Marcus Peters was traded to the Baltimore Ravens in exchange for linebacker Kenny Young. Los Angeles then traded the 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for cornerback Jalen Ramsey, who contributed well despite playing on a snap count in the Rams' 37-10 victory over the Falcons. The Rams defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 24-10 in London before dropping a low-scoring battle with the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-12. Between the games against the Bengals and Steelers, Aqib Talib, who was on injured reserve, was traded to the Miami Dolphins. Throughout the season, the Rams' offensive line had taken multiple injuries, which led to second-string players such as Bobby Evans and David Edwards getting playing time in the latter half of the year. The Rams, who were also missing wide receiver Robert Woods for a week, defeated the Bears 17-7 at home before being dismantled by the Ravens 45-6, with Baltimore scoring touchdowns on their first 6 drives, while Goff and Gurley, the latter of whom had been limited throughout the season, continued to struggle. Los Angeles responded with a 34-7 rout over the Cardinals, where rookie safety Taylor Rapp notched his first career interception, which he returned for a touchdown, while Goff threw his first passing touchdown in a month after going all of November without a single one. The team then turned in one of their strongest first-half performances of the year in a 28-12 victory over the Seahawks in what was the final primetime NFL game at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Rams, however, were unable to keep their momentum in a 21-44 loss to the Dallas Cowboys, dealing the team a devastating blow to their playoff chances and forcing them into a must-win game against the 49ers. The Rams led late in the game, but the 49ers won the wild affair 34-31 via a field goal after a miscommunication between Ramsey and Rapp on the final drive of the game led to a blown coverage, which put San Francisco in scoring position. The loss eliminated the Rams from playoff contention, denying them an opportunity to repeat as NFC champions. In their final game at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the team went out on a high note, defeating the Cardinals 31-24. Like the rest of the NFL, the Rams were forced to navigate a difficult offseason when the global COVID-19 pandemic struck, meaning offseason free agent visits, college player visits, the draft, and other team activities were conducted virtually, and there was no preseason. In free agency, the Rams chose to release Todd Gurley after his lackluster 2019, where he finished with career lows in touchdowns and rushing yards after being limited by his knee injury. The Rams also traded Brandon Cooks, whose concussions kept him out of multiple games the previous year. The team filled those holes by drafting running back Cam Akers and receiver Van Jefferson. However, the Rams lost Corey Littleton and Dante Fowler in free agency and were set to lose Michael Brockers to the Ravens until a failed physical allowed him to return to Los Angeles on a 3-year deal. Kicker Greg Zoyerlin also departed, signing with the Cowboys. 1 week before the start of the season, Jalen Ramsey, who was signed to a 5-year, $102 million deal, making him the highest-paid cornerback in league history. The Rams' 2020 season also marked the long-awaited opening of the $5 billion plus SoFi Stadium, the world's costliest stadium. The pandemic kept fans out of the stadium's 70,000 seats during its first year. The team, which had also undergone a rebranding of logos, colors, and uniforms, won their first game of the 2020 season 20-17 over the Cowboys. Near the game's end, Dallas was denied a large gain that would have put them in scoring position when a controversial offensive pass interference penalty was called on Dallas receiver Michael Gallup against Ramsey. The Rams won their Week 2 game with a 37-19 rout over the Philadelphia Eagles, where Jared Goff, who appeared to have shrugged off last year's struggles, completed his first 14 consecutive passes and threw for 3 touchdowns, all to tight end Tyler Higbee. The Rams' next play the Buffalo Bills, who led 28-3 before the Rams nearly pulled off the biggest comeback win in team history, but lost 35-32 on a controversial pass interference call against Darius Williams. In the following game, Williams snagged a game-winning interception in a low-scoring battle against the Giants with a final score of 17-9. After a 30-10 win over the Washington football team in Week 5, the Rams struggled in a 24-16 loss to a depleted San Francisco 49ers team. The defense stole the show in a bounce-back 24-10 win over the Bears in primetime, but the team then suffered an ugly 28-17 loss to the Dolphins. Los Angeles shut out Miami in the second half, but Goff struggled against Miami's defense, completing just 35 of his 61 pass attempts while throwing 2 interceptions and losing 2 fumbles. After the bye week, Darius Williams secured 2 interceptions in the Rams' 23-16 win over the Seahawks in Week 10. The Rams entered a crucial Monday battle against the Buccaneers, who were bolstered by the acquisition of Tom Brady in the offseason. Brady, however, struggled against the Los Angeles defense as rookie safety Jordan Fuller picked off Brady twice, while Goff turned in a solid performance with just under 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, 2 of which were the first career touchdowns for Akers and Jefferson. Kicker Matt Gay also made his Rams debut. In the next game, the defense played well, but Goff's poor decisions and throws led to a 23-20 loss to the 49ers. The following week, both the offense and defense shone in a 38-28 victory over Arizona, and in a highly anticipated rematch of Super Bowl 53, the Rams dismantled the Patriots 24-3. Week 15 brought the biggest upset of the year. The Rams gave the 0-13 New York Jets their first win of the season, 23-20. Los Angeles went down by 13 points before scoring, and crucial mistakes from Goff as well as strong performances from the Jets defense put the game out of reach. Many suggested that the Rams needed to replace the turnover-prone Goff at quarterback, and calling the otherwise stellar team a quarterback away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Goff broke his thumb late in a 20-9 loss to Seattle, and in their season finale against the Cardinals, John Wolford made his first career start after Goff had surgery on his throwing hand. Wolford and the Los Angeles defense played well, and the Rams took down the Cardinals 18-7. While the Green Bay Packers' victory over the Chicago Bears clinched the Rams a playoff berth. The Rams finished the 2020 season with a 10-6 record. Wolford was given the start over the Goff in the Rams wildcard round game against the Seahawks, though early in the game, a rough hit by Seahawks safety Jamal Adams took Wolford out of the game with a neck injury. Goff, who was playing with a bandaged throwing thumb, came into the game and helped to steady the Rams' offense, while the defense took over the rest of the game, and the Rams eliminated their rivals with a 30-20 win. Rams superstar defender Aaron Donald missed most of the second half with a rib injury, and the next week, with Wolford declared out due to his neck injury, Goff had to step in again in the divisional round against a heavily favored Packers team. Goff played a more solid game, but Donald, who was apparently limited by his injury, was ineffective in the game, and the Packers' mistake-free offense was too much for the Rams to overcome. Green Bay won 32-18 to advance to the NFC Championship. Super Bowl 56 champions 2021. Before Super Bowl 55 was played, the Rams agreed to a blockbuster trade, dealing the inconsistent Jared Goff to the Detroit Lions in exchange for Detroit's own quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Acquiring Stafford came at a steep price, as Los Angeles gave up a 2021 third-round pick and 2 first-round picks in 2022 and 2023. The offseason saw more losses as defensive coordinator Brandon Staley left to become the head coach of the crosstown rival Chargers, while the team also traded Michael Brockers to the Lions, and chose not to retain impending free agents John Johnson, Gerald Everett, and Josh Reynolds. The Rams added more depth at wide receiver, signing free agent Deshaun Jackson and drafting Tutu Atwell. Another addition came when the team suffered the loss of Cam Akers for the season due to an Achilles injury, and veteran Sonny Michael was tapped as the replacement. Before the season, SoFi Stadium was permitted to allow fans to attend Rams games for the first time during the pandemic. The Rams opened their 2021 season on Sunday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. In front of a sellout crowd, Matthew Stafford exploded in his Los Angeles debut, throwing for 3 touchdowns and 321 yards as the Rams defeated the Bears 34-14. The Rams followed it up with a close 27-24 win over the Indianapolis Colts before a strong victory against the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34-24. The Rams were handed their first loss of the season against the division rival Arizona Cardinals, ending their perfect record against the Cardinals under Sean McVay. Though the team was able to bounce back in a wild 26-17 win over another division opponent, the Seattle Seahawks, before a blowout win over the New York Giants 38-11. The Rams then squared off with Stafford's former team, the Lions, while also facing their former quarterback Jared Goff, a back-and-forth matchup that resulted in the Rams prevailing 28-19. A day after defeating the Lions, the team traded linebacker Kenny Young to the Denver Broncos and later confirmed that Deshaun Jackson would be permitted to seek a trade. Jackson would later be released into free agency after the team was unable to find a trade partner. On Halloween, the Rams' offense exploded for a 38-22 win over the Houston Texans. A day after the victory, the Rams made a blockbuster move, acquiring Pro Bowl linebacker Von Miller from the Broncos in exchange for 2 draft picks. However, Miller was unable to make his debut the week he was traded, as he was still dealing with an ankle injury. On November 11th, Los Angeles would then make another blockbuster move, signing former Cleveland Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. to a 1-year deal. However, the new acquisitions did not result in immediate dividends, as the Rams lost 3 straight games to fall to 7-4. Turnovers plagued Los Angeles in both a 28-16 loss to the Tennessee Titans on Sunday Night Football and a 31-10 rout at the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. LA's 5th straight loss to their traditional rival. Following a bye week, the Rams fell on the road at Green Bay in a 36-28 loss to the Packers that dropped Los Angeles to 8-4. A 37-7 win at home versus the Jacksonville Jaguars ended the Rams' skid, which was then followed by a resounding 30-23 victory on the road against Arizona. Despite missing half a dozen starters due to COVID-19 protocols, the Rams pulled away in the second half as Matthew Stafford threw touchdown passes at Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Odell Beckham Jr. to thrust LA back into the NFC West Division race. Though COVID-19 issues caused the Rams' home game against Seattle to be postponed for 2 days, Los Angeles clamped down on the Seahawks 20-10 for its 3rd straight victory. In that game, Cooper Kupp caught 9 passes for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns, and his 122 receptions through 14 games surpassed the Rams' single-season receptions record held by Hall of Fame wide receiver Isaac Bruce. The Rams clinched their 4th NFC playoff berth in 5 seasons to the following week by holding off the host Minnesota Vikings 30-23. After going winless in November, the Rams won 4 straight in December, though in their final game of the regular season blew a 17-0 lead to the 49ers in their 6th straight loss to their division rivals, a result that allowed San Francisco into the postseason. Despite this, the Seahawks' victory over the Cardinals that same week allowed the Rams to finish in first place in the NFC West with a 12-5 record. Also in a surprising development, Cam Akers was able to take the field in the Rams' regular season finale, having made an unprecedented quick recovery from his torn Achilles, though he took a very limited number of snaps in the game. Akers would go on to be a full participant in the Rams' postseason. In the playoffs, the Rams closed out the wildcard round by defeating the divisional rival Arizona Cardinals in a 34-11 rout, taking place in the first ever Monday Night Football playoff game. 1 week later, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rams jumped out to a 27-3 lead before Tom Brady and the Buccaneers stormed back into the game and tied it with under a minute remaining. Though Cooper Kupp caught 2 deep passes from Matthew Stafford and Matt Gay kicked a game-winning field goal that allowed the Rams to advance to the NFC Championship, where they would again face their divisional rival San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers led 17-7 late in the game, but a sideline speech from Aaron Donald to the rest of the team's defense reinvigorated Los Angeles to come back and eventually take a 20-17 lead. Shortly after, with just over 1 minute remaining, Donald tackled 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo mid-throw, and his desperate pass was picked off by Travin Howard, allowing the Rams to reach Super Bowl 56, where they would face the Cincinnati Bengals. In the Super Bowl, the Rams took an early 13-3 lead on touchdowns from Kupp and Beckham, but Beckham went down with a non-contact ACL injury to end the first half, by which point Los Angeles' lead was cut to 3. The second half began with disaster as Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow connected with T. Higgins for a 75-yard touchdown, though replay footage showed Higgins appear to get away with grabbing Jalen Ramsey's face mask. No flag was thrown, and the Bengals eventually took a late 20-16 lead, but the Rams orchestrated a game-winning drive featuring multiple connections between Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And after a flurry of penalties near the end zone, Stafford and Kupp connected one final time for the Rams to take a 23-20 lead. On Cincinnati's final drive, the Bengals faced a 4th and 1 near midfield, and in a moment mirroring his game-winning tackle of Jimmy Garoppolo 2 weeks prior, Aaron Donald tackled Joe Burrow, and his final desperation throw fell incomplete, giving the Rams their second Super Bowl win and as well as their first Super Bowl win in Los Angeles. This also marked the second year in a row that a team that played in the Super Bowl played in their home stadium, as in Super Bowl 55, the Buccaneers won against the Chiefs in Raymond James Stadium. However, the Rams were designated as the away team, as in even-numbered years, the AFC is designated as the home team. After becoming Super Bowl champions, there was some doubt as to whether Aaron Donald and Sean McVay would return to the team, as reports began to circulate shortly before the Super Bowl that Donald was considering retirement and McVay had been offered a TV deal with ESPN. However, McVay would state that he had no intention of going to TV, and later during a press conference, McVay said that Donald had communicated to him that he would also return. McVay later received a contract extension, as did wide receiver Cooper Kupp, while Donald's current deal was restructured to increase his guaranteed money to $95 million through the 2024 NFL season. Meanwhile, veteran offensive lineman Andrew Whitworth announced his retirement shortly into the offseason. The Rams made a move at wide receiver near the start of free agency, signing free agent and former Jacksonville Jaguars and Chicago Bears wideout Allen Robinson to a 3-year deal. Wide receiver Robert Woods, who had missed a majority of the previous season with a torn ACL, was the odd man out, and as he was dealt to the Tennessee Titans for a late-round pick in 2023. Shortly before the Woods trade, the Rams extended quarterback Matthew Stafford on a 4-year deal. The Rams also lost Von Miller to the Buffalo Bills in free agency, though eventually filled the hole by signing free agent linebacker and former division rival Bobby Wagner to a 5-year deal. Wagner, after signing with Los Angeles, stated that he wanted to remain on the West Coast and that playing the Seahawks, his former team, twice a year was a cherry on top. In May 2022, Rams owner Stan Kroenke purchased a 34-acre property in Woodland Hills that included the Promenade shopping mall for approximately $150 million. A month later, Kroenke bought an adjacent 31-acre property for $175 million. The combined 65-acre property is expected to be developed into a permanent team headquarters and practice facility. An adjacent shopping center called The Village was purchased in January 2023 for $325 million, bringing the total property ownership to 100 acres. The center will continue to operate as an open-air lifestyle and retail destination. Super Bowl hangover and retooling 2022 and 23. The Rams' 2022 season began on a low note. Despite opening the season celebrating their Super Bowl victory at home, they were unable to capitalize on 2 first-half turnovers by Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, falling 31-10. The next week, they jumped out to a 28-3 lead over the Atlanta Falcons, but had to stave off a furious late comeback attempt by Atlanta, though they had held on to win 31-27. They defeated the Cardinals 20-12 on the road before falling flat on the road against the 49ers 24-9 on Monday Night Football. Los Angeles would continue to struggle offensively the next week, with early miscues against the Dallas Cowboys putting them into a hole they could not recover from, and they lost 22-10. The Rams, however, would even the record after a dominant second half against the Carolina Panthers, winning 24-10. After the bye week, the Rams would go on to only win 2 of their last 11 remaining games. Injuries became a major problem for the team, as core players such as Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and Allen Robinson were all lost for the year to injury, while unspecified issues appeared to begin cropping up with running back Cam Akers, who had apparently not meshed well with players and the coaching staff, and the team unsuccessfully attempted to seek out a trade partner. The team notably signed 2018 first overall pick quarterback Baker Mayfield after picking him up on waivers when he was released by the Panthers days before Los Angeles' Thursday night football matchup with the Raiders in Week 14. Mayfield, despite having only been on the team for 2 days, would then come into the game and lead the team to a last-minute 98-yard game-winning drive with no timeouts to snap the Rams' 6-game losing streak. The team, however, would be eliminated from playoff contention the following Monday evening after a lackluster performance against the Green Bay Packers. Los Angeles' 5th and final win of 2022 came in a blowout victory over the Denver Broncos on Christmas Day. After a controversial overtime loss to the Seahawks in Week 18, they finished with a 5-12 record, the all-time worst record by a defending Super Bowl champion. The Rams made several significant changes in the offseason in order to deal with the salary cap. Jalen Ramsey, Allen Robinson, Bobby Wagner, Leonard Floyd, and A'Shawn Robinson were notable names that were either traded or released. Head coach Sean McVay was also rumored to be considering stepping down, but later confirmed that he would return to the team. Star wide receiver Cooper Kupp suffered a hamstring injury in training camp that required him to be placed on injured reserve to begin the season, sidelining him for the first 4 games. The Rams began their 2023 season with a 30-13 win over the Seahawks after a dominant second half. Matthew Stafford appeared to return to form, while attention also went to rookie receiver Puka Nacua, who was drafted in the 5th round in 2023 and was anticipated to have a large role with Kupp out. Nacua recorded 10 receptions in his debut. Meanwhile, more unspecified issues behind the scenes again arose with Cam Akers, who was made inactive before Week 2 and eventually traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Second-year running back Kyren Williams got his first real chance to take control of the Rams' ground game and made the most of it, scoring 4 touchdowns in the first 2 games. But the Rams once again fell short of defeating the 49ers, losing their 9th consecutive game to their division rival. Nacua, meanwhile, set the rookie record for most receptions in a single game. The Rams' offense largely fell flat on Monday Night Football in Week 3, losing a Super Bowl 56 rematch to the Cincinnati Bengals 19-16. The team's new top cornerback, Ahkello Witherspoon, recorded his first interception with Los Angeles in the loss. The next week, Los Angeles jumped out to a 23-0 lead over the Indianapolis Colts, but after Matthew Stafford suffered a rough hit in the game and was noticeably limping, the Colts stormed back into the game and tied it at 23. Though Stafford would remain in the game and would throw Puka Nacua's first career touchdown to win the game in overtime, Cooper Kupp returned to action in Week 5 against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Rams were competitive in the game but could not hold on, losing 23-14. The team rebounded the next week at home against the Cardinals. Despite struggling offensively in the first half, they stepped up for a 20-point second half to win 26-9. By this point, defensive rookies Byron Young and Kobe Turner began to make massive impacts on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams, suggesting the team might compete for a playoff spot despite appearing to be in a rebuilding situation. The next week, however, the Rams were 1 possession away from a potential comeback over the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, as Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett attempted to rush the ball on the 4th and 1, he appeared to have been almost clearly stopped short of the line to gain. Unfortunately for the Rams, the officials gave Pickett the first down, denying Los Angeles their final possession and dropping them to 3 and 4. The Rams then made a series of miscues and a blowout loss to the Dallas Cowboys 43-20, in which Matthew Stafford injured his thumb diving to make a catch on a 2-point conversion. Stafford would miss the Rams' 20-3 loss to the Packers the following week, in which Brett Rypien started. Despite sitting at 3-6 and outside the playoff picture, the Rams would only lose 1 game following their bye week in Week 10. As Stafford returned and Carson Wentz was signed as the team's new backup quarterback, the team completed a sweep of the Seahawks, defeating them by 1 point, 17-16. After Seattle kicker Jason Myers missed a potential game-winning 55-yard field goal, after blowout wins over the Arizona Cardinals and Cleveland Browns, the Rams put up a tough fight against a Baltimore Ravens team that was heavily expected to contend for the Super Bowl. Baltimore needed overtime to win the game 37-31, scoring the winning touchdown off of a punt return, although appearing to get away with an illegal block in the back. Nevertheless, the Rams responded the next week with a 28-20 win over the Washington Commanders. The following Thursday, Los Angeles dominated the New Orleans Saints and held off a late comeback chance to win 30-22. The Rams would then play the New York Giants on New Year's Eve in what was a very sloppy and inconsistent game from both sides. The Rams took a 26-19 lead before allowing Gunnar Olszewski to score a kickoff return touchdown. However, the Giants failed to score the ensuing 2-point conversion. Needing 1 more first down to win the game, the Rams went 3 and out, but Giants kicker Mason Crosby missed the winner from 54 yards. Along with the Rams' win over the Giants, the Steelers' Week 17 victory over the Seahawks allowed the Rams to clinch a playoff berth, a feat considered impressive by many given the unfavorable salary cap situation the team recently experienced in the prior offseason. In Week 18, both the Rams and 49ers made the decisions to rest most starters, as the 49ers had already clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC. The 49ers jumped out to a 20-7 lead, but an impressive performance from Carson Wentz allowed Los Angeles back into the game, taking a 21-20 lead before forcing 49ers backup Sam Darnold to fumble on his final possession. And the Rams finally snapped their 9-game regular season losing streak to their NFC West rivals. In the season finale, Puka Nacua broke two all-time NFL rookie records for most receptions and most receiving yards. The Rams were pitted against the Detroit Lions in the NFC wildcard, the second rematch between Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff since the trade that sent the quarterbacks to opposite teams. The back-and-forth affair saw multiple Rams players, including Stafford, take rough, late hits that did not get penalized. One such hit leading to tight end Tyler Higbee suffering a torn ACL. Trailing in the fourth quarter, 24-23, the Rams had a chance to take the lead, but Nacua was hit early on Stafford's final throw, and again, no penalty was given, allowing the Lions to run out the rest of the clock and win their first playoff game in 30 years. Post-Aaron Donald era, 2024 to present. On March 15, 2024, Rams superstar defensive tackle Aaron Donald, widely considered to be the best defensive player in football, announced his retirement. Donald played all 10 seasons of his career with the Rams, tallying up 111 sacks, having never missed the Pro Bowl, and being named Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, tying the all-time NFL record. The Rams opened free agency in 2024, making two notable acquisitions on defense, reuniting with cornerback Darius Williams while signing safety Cameron Curl. Former 49ers and Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo was signed to be the team's backup on the same day Donald announced his departure. Cornerback Tre'Davious White was also signed to a one-year deal. The Rams draft in 2024 was noted by the first time the team owned a selection in the first round since their return to Los Angeles in 2016. At 18th overall, the Rams selected Florida State linebacker Jared Verse, who highlighted their draft class alongside his Florida State teammate Brandon Fisk, the Rams traded up to the 37th overall to select. After spending the 8 previous seasons at UC Irvine, the Rams held training camp for the first time at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. Following the end of training camp, the Rams conducted the remainder of its preseason practices at Cal Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks, where the team had operated its temporary training facility since 2016 when the franchise moved from St. Louis. This was necessitated due to delays in the construction of the Cranky Warner Center complex in Woodland Hills. Following the end of the preseason, the Rams began conducting practices at their new permanent facility. The Rams' 2024 season began with an overtime loss in a rematch with the Detroit Lions. The Rams erased a 17-3 deficit and to take a 20-17 lead. But Detroit tied the game on a field goal, and Los Angeles never saw the football again after losing the overtime coin toss. Multiple Rams starters in this game suffered injury, including Puka Nacua, who re-aggravated a knee injury suffered during training camp, and Cooper Kupp, who re-aggravated his previous hamstring injury that saw him miss multiple games in 2023. Kupp would play in the Rams' Week 2 contest in Arizona, but took minimal snaps as the injury worsened, and the Rams were blown out by the Cardinals 41-10. With multiple offensive linemen and their top 2 receivers missing as a result of the flurry of injuries in the first 2 games, the Rams began their season with a 1-4 record. Their only win coming from an impressive comeback over the San Francisco 49ers 27-24. Tre'Davious White notably struggled as he was still recovering from a torn Achilles from the prior season. And the Rams would replace White by reuniting with Ahkello Witherspoon in free agency, while White was eventually traded to the Baltimore Ravens. The Rams broke their losing streak with a 20-15 win over the Las Vegas Raiders, and both Kupp and Nacua were able to return in time for the team's following Thursday game against the Minnesota Vikings. Both players significantly contributed to the offense as the Rams defeated the Vikings 30-20, and as multiple injured starters began to recover and return to action, Los Angeles continued their hot streak with a 26-20 win in overtime over the Seattle Seahawks, where Demarcus Robinson caught the game-winning touchdown. The Rams' offense was halted in a Monday loss to the Miami Dolphins despite reaching the red zone 5 times. The Rams never scored a touchdown in the 23-15 loss. The team responded with a 28-22 win over the New England Patriots, but the following week were overwhelmed by a strong performance from the Philadelphia Eagles, where Eagles running back Saquon Barkley put up 255 rushing yards in a 37-20 win for Philadelphia. Against the New Orleans Saints, Los Angeles was shut out in the first half for just the second time in the Sean McVay era, but nevertheless managed to come back and win the game 21-14. The Rams then outlasted the Buffalo Bills in an offensive explosion, despite Bills quarterback Josh Allen scoring 6 total touchdowns. The Rams' offense kept pace as Matthew Stafford threw for 320 yards, and Puka Nacua had multiple touchdowns as the Rams won 44-42. The following Thursday, the Rams defeated the 49ers in a sloppy game from both sides. Rainy weather and soggy field conditions for a large portion of the game contributed to slowing both offenses down, as neither team scored a touchdown. This win marked the first time the Rams had swept their upstate rivals since 2018, and the loss effectively eliminated San Francisco from playoff contention. They were officially eliminated the next week. The Rams defeated the Jets 19-9 in frigid conditions before another difficult, low-scoring game against the Cardinals on Saturday of Week 17. However, despite the struggles of the offense, Ahkello Witherspoon shut down the Cardinals' final drive with a diving interception to secure a 13-9 win. A series of results on the following Sunday allowed the Rams to clinch the NFC West Division title on a strength of victory tiebreaker while eliminating the Seahawks, who defeated the Rams 30-25 in the regular season finale as Los Angeles rested multiple starters to prepare for the playoffs. The Rams were scheduled to play their wildcard game, a rematch with the Vikings at SoFi Stadium on Monday, January 13, 2025. However, days before the game, a massive series of wildfires broke out in the Los Angeles region, forcing the game to be moved to State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The Cardinals organization graciously allowed the Rams full use of their facilities, including allowing the players use of their practice facility, painting the field at State Farm Stadium to resemble the Rams field at SoFi Stadium, and temporarily converting multiple shops in the stadium to Rams team stores. Additionally, the Rams organized several charter buses to carry several Rams fans, including season ticket holders, to and from the game in Arizona. In the game itself, the Rams dominated the Vikings in a 27-9 win. The defense recorded 9 sacks on the Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold, tying a single-game NFL playoff record. The following week, the Rams traveled to Philadelphia in a rematch with the Eagles in the divisional round. The back-and-forth contest ultimately saw the Rams earn a final game-winning drive opportunity that was stopped 14 yards shy of the end zone. The Eagles won the game 28-22 and would go on to win Super Bowl 59. On February 6, 2025, the NFL and the Victoria state government announced that the Rams would be the designated home team for the 2026 NFL Melbourne game at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, which will be the first regular season NFL game played in Australia. With a spectator capacity of 100,024, the MCG is the largest stadium in the Southern Hemisphere and the 11th largest in the world. Team value. Forbes magazine estimated the worth of the team in 2015 at $1.45 billion, which at the time were the 28th most valuable NFL team and 44th most valuable sports team in the world. However, after returning to Los Angeles from St. Louis, it was estimated by CBS Sports that the team value rose to $2.9 billion, placing them third in the NFL, behind the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. In 2021, Forbes released their annual NFL team values list, ranking the Rams fourth at $4.8 billion, behind the Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots, and New York Giants. The franchise is one of the fastest-growing sports teams in the world, as the team's resurgent success in Los Angeles helped regrow a steady influx of new fans and achieved unprecedented year-by-year rankings, as previously mentioned. Culture. Mascot. Rampage. Rampage has been the team's official mascot since 2010, being voted by fans whilst the team was still located in St. Louis. Rampage has grown a substantial level of enjoyment from Rams fans and players alike, given his upbeat, energetic demeanor. Fans. Melonheads. During the 1980s, fan Lance Goldberg popularized the idea of wearing a watermelon on his head with horns attached to express support for the team. Like the cheesehead headgear of the Green Bay Packers fans, Goldberg was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2000 as part of the Hall of Fans. Mob Squad. During the Rams' final season in St. Louis in 2015, the team adopted the moniker as the Mob Squad, but to tout the strength of their defense. The team discarded the moniker after 2018, though numerous local booster clubs retain the name to this day, and has been used to refer to the entire fan base. Celebrity fans. Many Los Angeles-based film and music celebrities have shown support for the Rams before their 1994 departure and since their 2016 return. One notable fan is actor Terry Crews, who was drafted by the Rams in 1991 during his brief NFL career. Rage Against the Machine guitarist Tom Morello named his son after former Rams quarterback Roman Gabriel. Nita Strauss. Another notable fan is Alice Cooper guitarist Nita Strauss, who joined the Rams media team and entertainment personnel in 2018. Strauss often performs riffs or interludes at primetime Rams home games to start crowd chants during breaks. Following the Rams' victory at Super Bowl 56, the organization awarded Strauss a Super Bowl ring. Nelly. During the team's tenure in St. Louis, the success of The Greatest Show on Turf attracted numerous high-profile fans such as local rapper Nelly. He wore team gear in the videos for his songs Country Grammar and EI. In 2002, Nelly invited Rams players such as Torrey Holt and Marshall Faulk to appear in the music video for the song Air Force Ones. Nelly expressed anger at the team's return to Los Angeles in 2016, but continued to display his support for the team. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Upon the Rams' return to Los Angeles in 2016, fans were treated to an impromptu pregame concert from hometown icons Red Hot Chili Peppers for the team's first regular season game in Los Angeles since 1994. In the band's 1987 music video for the single Fight Like a Brave, former guitarist Hillel Slovak can be seen wearing a Rams hat. Bassist Flea supports the Rams, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Los Angeles Lakers. Flea and drummer Chad Smith have owned season tickets since the team's return in 2016, and the two can be occasionally spotted at Rams home games. In honor of the team's victory in Super Bowl 56, the band unveiled a limited edition vinyl of their 13th studio album, Return of the Dream Canteen, on October 14, 2022 in the team's colors, with a Rams sticker in the sleeve. During Rams home games, Nita Strauss often performs the riff to the song Can't Stop before the team enters the field from the tunnel. Strauss and former Rams DJ Malski regularly performed Give It Away before the fourth quarter. Rivalries. Divisional. San Francisco 49ers. Like the Dodgers-Giants rivalry of the MLB, the Rams rivalry with the San Francisco 49ers dates from the 1950s when both teams, original members of the NFC West, were fighting for dominance in California. In the 1970s, the clubs would regularly fight for control of the division. The 1980s yielded more notable matchups between the two teams, predominantly won by the 49ers. The two teams have met in the postseason 3 times, including in the 1989 NFC Championship. After the Rams moved to St. Louis in 1995, the rivalry lost its geographic spur but still saw heated games. The rivalry renewed upon the Rams' return to Los Angeles in 2016 with fans, coaches, and players exhibiting animosity. Sports Illustrated considers their rivalry the 8th best in the NFL. The 49ers and Rams are the only two teams who have been members of the NFC West since the division was formed in 1970. Both teams have hired 2 former Washington Redskins offensive staff as head coaches. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have been credited with turning their respective teams around and making returns to the postseason. McVay returned the Rams to the Super Bowl in 2018, while Shanahan made an appearance the following season. By the 2021-22 season, Shanahan's 49ers had defeated the Rams in 6 consecutive regular season games, but McVay's Rams defeated San Francisco in a crushing last-minute victory in the NFC Championship game. The Rams later advanced to Super Bowl 56. Seattle Seahawks. The Rams' rivalry with the Seattle Seahawks began after the Seahawks switched to the NFC West in 2002. The first notable matchup between the two clubs occurred in the 2004 NFC wildcard round when the Rams defeated the Seahawks in Seattle 27-20. Much of the intensity waned as the Rams declined throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. The intensity of the rivalry found new life during the 2010s as Seattle's Legion of Boom era teams often clashed with the Rams' Mob Squad era teams in a bitter fight for control of the division. Some divisional meetings saw random acts of violence on both sides. The teams have 2 Super Bowl wins and 7 division titles since 2010. Tensions ran high during the 2021 wildcard game following a widely publicized taunt by Seahawks safety Jamal Adams during a post-game conference after a tough win over the Rams during Week 16. The Rams beat the Seahawks in the wildcard game with cornerback Jalen Ramsey and quarterback Jared Goff expressing their satisfaction. Currently, the series is tied 28-28, but the Rams have won both playoff meetings. Arizona Cardinals. One of the oldest matchups for the Rams as both teams first met during the 1937 NFL season, while the Rams played in Cleveland and the Cardinals were still originally located in Chicago. The rivalry has resurged in recent years as both teams found playoff success despite the Cardinals' best efforts. The Rams have been 9-1 since hiring head coach Sean McVay in 2017. The Week 17 matchup of the 2020 season saw both teams playing for a playoff berth. Despite the injury of quarterback Jared Goff, the Rams managed to pull off a victory over the Cardinals in a 7-18 loss that would eliminate them from the postseason. The Cardinal streak would end against the Rams the following season. They would also manage to steal the lead of the NFC from the Rams and start the season 7-0. The following matchup would see the Rams pull off a win on Monday Night Football. The Cardinals would also struggle by losing 6 of 10 games since their 7-0 start. The Cardinals would clinch a wild card berth after a Week 17 win over the Dallas Cowboys. Ironically, they would play the Rams in Los Angeles and lose in a 34-11 blowout loss that would see Kyler Murray throw 2 interceptions with one returning for a pick 6. Arizona fans also attributed their hatred of Los Angeles-based sports teams similarly to the Diamondbacks-Dodgers rivalry. The Rams owned the series 47-39-2, in addition to 2 postseason wins in 1975 and 2022, respectively. Conference: Dallas Cowboys. The rivalry between the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams became prominent during the 70s and 80s. The Cowboys met the Rams 8 times during that span and split those meetings. 2 of those matchups decided the NFC's representative in the Super Bowl, with the Cowboys prevailing on both occasions. As of the 2023 season, the Cowboys lead the all-time series 20-18, which included the Rams leading 5-4 in the playoffs. New Orleans Saints. The Rams and the New Orleans Saints once shared a fierce divisional rivalry as the Saints played in the NFC West until the league's realignment in 2002. Animosity resurged between the two teams during the 2010s after the Rams had lured Saints controversial defensive coordinator Greg Williams in 2012, shortly before Williams and Saints head coach Sean Payton would be implicated in the infamous Bountygate scandal. Both teams had thrown insults towards one another in the media, most notably during the controversial 2018 NFC Championship game, in which a critical pass to Saints receiver Tommy Lee Lewis was illegally broken up by Rams quarterback nickel Robbie Coleman, though no flag was thrown, enraging the Saints for the blown call. Saints receiver Michael Thomas expressed his anger towards the Rams and in regard to the no call to the media following the game. The teams are tied 1-1 in the postseason, but the Rams lead the all-time series 45-34. Detroit Lions. The Rams have played the Detroit Lions more than any other non-divisional team, with 90 total matchups over the years dating back to 1937. In the 2023 and 24 playoffs, the Rams and Lions met for their first postseason matchup since 1952, which the Lions won 24-23 in Matthew Stafford's first game back in Detroit since being traded to the Rams. As of the 2025 season, the Rams lead the all-time series 46-43-1. Interconference. Los Angeles Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers. Initially considered the Battle of Los Angeles during the Raiders' tenure in Los Angeles from 82 to 94, the rivalry was non-existent as the Rams had also moved to St. Louis the same year. The Raiders unsuccessfully attempted to move back to Los Angeles in 2015 after a failed joint stadium project with then San Diego Chargers. The Intercity Series was revived only with the Los Angeles Chargers being the city's AFC team following the Rams' return to Los Angeles in 2016, and their move from San Diego in 2017. Hostility erupted between the two clubs during a 2017 joint scrimmage at the Rams training camp in Irvine, California. Rams cornerback nickel Robbie Coleman and Chargers receiver Keenan Allen initiated an altercation, and multiple players rushed into the skirmish, creating an uproar from the crowd. Following the hiring of coach Sean McVay in 2017, the Rams managed to win back-to-back division titles, including an appearance in Super Bowl 53 during McVay's second season as head coach. The Chargers experienced their own playoff success by boasting a 12-4 record in 2018 and making an appearance in the 2018 AFC divisional round, but also losing to the New England Patriots. The two teams are tied 1-1 in regular season matchups in Los Angeles thus far. Historic: Minnesota Vikings. The Rams' rivalry with the Minnesota Vikings was most heated in the 1970s when the two teams faced off in many consequential playoff games. To date, the Vikings are the Rams' second most played playoff opponent with 8 games, and the Rams are the most played playoff opponent for the Vikings. The Vikings lead the all-time series 27-19-1 and are 5-3 in the playoffs. Kansas City Chiefs. While the Rams were in St. Louis, the team had an intrastate rivalry with the Kansas City Chiefs, with the trophy being awarded to the winner of each matchup. The series ended after the Rams moved back to Los Angeles in 2016, though the team's game during the season was the third highest scoring game of all time, hailed by many as one of the greatest in league history. As of the 2023 season, the Chiefs lead the all-time series 8-5. Logos and uniforms. The Rams were the first NFL team to have a logo on their helmets. Ever since halfback Fred Gurkey, who worked as a commercial artist in off-seasons, painted ram horns on the team's leather helmets in 1948. The logo has been the club's trademark. When the team debuted in 1937, the Rams' colors were red and black, featuring red helmets, black uniforms with red shoulders and sleeves, tan pants, and red socks with black and white stripes. 1 year later, they switched their team colors to gold and royal blue, with gold helmets, white pants, royal blue uniforms with gold numbers and gold shoulders, white pants with a royal stripe, and solid royal blue socks. By the mid 1940s, the Rams had adopted gold jerseys. The uniforms were unchanged as the team moved to Los Angeles. The helmets were changed to navy in 1947 when Gerke introduced the horns. They were painted yellow gold on navy blue helmets. In 1949, the team adopted plastic helmets, and the Rams' horns were rendered by the Riddell Company of Des Plaines, Illinois, which baked a painted design into the helmet at its factory. Also in 1949, the serif jersey numerals gave way to more standard block numbers. Wider, bolder horns joined at the helmet center front and curving around the ear hole appeared in 1950. This design was somewhat tapered in 1954 and 55. Also in 1950, a blue-gold-blue tri-stripe appeared on the pants, and Northwestern University-style royal blue stripes were added to jersey sleeves. A white border was added to the blue jersey numerals in 1953. So-called TV numbers were added on jersey sleeves in 1956. In accordance with a 1957 NFL rule dictating that the home team wear dark primary colored jerseys and the road team light shirts, the Rams hurriedly readied for the regular season new royal blue home jerseys with golden striping and golden front and back numerals with a white border. The white border was removed in 1958. The Rams continued to wear their golden jerseys for 1957 road games, but the following year adopted a white jersey with blue numerals and stripes. In 1962 and 63, the team's road white jerseys featured a UCLA-style blue-gold-blue crescent shoulder tri-stripe. In 1964, concurrent with a major remodeling of the team's Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum home, the colors were changed to a simpler blue and white. The new helmet horns were white, wider, and separated at the helmet center front. The blue jersey had white numerals with 2 white sleeve stripes. The white jersey featured blue numerals and a wide blue crescent shoulder stripe. A 1964 league rule allowed teams to wear white jerseys for home games, and the Rams were among several teams to do so, as owner Dan Reeves felt it would be more enjoyable for fans to see the various colors of the rest of the league as opposed to always having the Rams in blue and the visiting team in white. The pants were white with a thick blue stripe. In 1970, in keeping with the standards of the newly merged NFL, names appeared on the jersey backs for the first time. The sleeve TV numbers, quite large compared to those of other teams, were made smaller in 1965. From 1964 to early 1972, the Rams wore white jerseys for every home league game and exhibition, at one point not wearing their blue jerseys at all from the 10th game of 1967 through the 1971 opener, a stretch of 48 games. It was a tradition that continued under coaches Harlan Svar, George Allen, and Tommy Prothro. But new owner Carol Rosenblum did not particularly like the Rams' uniforms, so in pursuit of a new look, the team wore its seldom-used blue jerseys for most home games in 1972. During that season, Rosenblum's Rams also announced an intention to revive the old blue and gold colors for 1973 and asked fans to send in design ideas. Yellow gold was restored to the team's color scheme in 1973. The new uniform design consisted of yellow gold pants and curling ram's horns on the sleeves. Yellow gold horns curving from the shoulders to the arms on the blue jerseys, which featured golden numerals. A white border around the numerals, similar to the 1957 style, appeared for 2 preseason games, then disappeared. Players' names were in contrasting white. The white jersey had similarly shaped blue horns, numerals, and names. The white jerseys also had yellow gold sleeves. The gold pants included a blue tri-stripe, which was gradually widened through the 1970s and early 80s. The blue socks initially featured 2 thin golden stripes in the middle of the blue section. They disappeared upon their move to St. Louis in 1995. From 1973 to 1976, the Rams were the only team to wear white cleats on the road and royal blue cleats at home. Since 1977, they have worn white ones. The new golden helmet horns were of identical shape, but for the first time, the horn was not factory painted, but instead a decal applied to the helmet. The decal was cut in sections and affixed to accommodate spaces for face mask and chin strap attachments, and so the horn curved farther around the ear hole. The jersey numerals were made thicker and blunter in 1975. The Rams primarily wore blue at home with this combination, but after 1977 occasionally wore white at home. The team wore its white jerseys for most of its 1978 home dates, including its postseason games with the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys. The latter is the only postseason game the Cowboys have ever won while outfitted in their blue jerseys. The gray face mask became navy blue in 1981. The Rams wore white jerseys exclusively in the 1982 and 93 seasons, as well as other selected occasions throughout their 15 seasons in Anaheim. On April 12, 2000, the St. Louis Rams debuted new logos, team colors, and uniforms. The Rams' primary colors were changed from royal blue and yellow to millennium blue and new century gold. A new logo of charging ram's head was added to the sleeves, and gold stripes were added to the sides of the jerseys. The new gold pants no longer featured any stripes. Blue pants and white pants with a small gold stripe were also an option, with the Rams electing to wear the white set in a preseason game in San Diego in 2001. The helmet design essentially remained the same as it was in 1948, except for updates to the coloring, navy blue field with gold horns. The 2000 Rams horn design featured a slightly wider separation at the helmet's center. Both home and away jerseys had a gold stripe that ran down each side, but that only lasted for the 2000 and 2001 seasons. Additionally, the TV numbers on the jerseys, which had previously been on the sleeve, moved up to the shoulder pad. In 2003, the Rams wore blue pants with their white jerseys for a pair of early season games, but after losses to the New York Giants and Seattle Seahawks, the Rams reverted to gold pants with their white jerseys. In 2005, the Rams wore the blue pants at home against Arizona and on the road against Dallas. In 2007, the Rams wore all possible combinations of their uniforms. They were the blue tops and gold pants against Carolina, San Francisco, Cleveland, Seattle, and on the road against Dallas. They wore the blue tops and blue pants at home against Arizona, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh on Marshall Folk Night. They wore the blue tops and white pants on the road in Tampa Bay and at home against Green Bay. They wore white tops and gold pants at New Orleans and San Francisco. They wore white tops and white pants in Seattle and Arizona. And they wore white tops and blue pants at Baltimore and Cincinnati. In 2008, the Rams did away with the gold pants after they were used for only one regular season game at Seattle. The blue jerseys with white pants and white jerseys with blue pant combinations were used most of the time. For the 2009 season, the Rams elected to wear the white pants with both jerseys for the majority of the time, except the games against the Vikings and Texans, where they wore the throwback jerseys from the 1999 season. Week 2 in Washington when they wore gold pants with the blue jersey, and Week 12 against Seattle when they wore blue pants with the blue jersey. The Rams ceased wearing the new century gold pants after Nike took over as the NFL's uniform supplier in 2012. During their time in St. Louis, the Rams had worn blue at home. Like most other teams playing in a dome, the Rams did not need to wear white to gain an advantage with the heat. The Rams wore their white jerseys and blue pants in St. Louis against the Dallas Cowboys on October 19, 2008, forcing the Cowboys to wear their unlucky blue uniforms, and won the game 34-14. On October 21, 2012, the Rams wore white jerseys and white pants against the Green Bay Packers. The NFL approved the use of throwback uniforms for the club during the 2009 season to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the 1999 Super Bowl championship. The Rams wore the throwback uniforms for 2 home games in 2009, on October 11th against the Minnesota Vikings and on December 20th against the Houston Texans. The Rams wore their 1999 throwbacks again on October 31, 2010, when they beat the Carolina Panthers 20-10. The throwbacks have since then seen action for 2 select regular season games each year since. In 1994, the team's last season in Southern California, the Rams wore jerseys and pants replicating those of their 1951 championship season for their September games with the San Francisco 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. 4 days after the NFL approved their return to Los Angeles, the team made slight changes to its branding. The only change to the team's wordmark logo was the location name, from St. Louis to Los Angeles, to reflect the team's move. The team's colors were retained. The Rams also announced there would be no significant changes to the team's uniforms, apart from the newly updated logos with the Los Angeles location name. In March 21, 2016, interview with the Los Angeles Times, Team Chief Operating Officer Kevin Demoff said that there would be no uniform change for the team until 2019. However, the stadium completion was pushed back 1 year into 2020 in May 2017, pushing the rebrand back to 2020 along with it. On August 11, 2016, the team announced on Twitter that it would wear its all-white uniforms for 5 of the team's 8 home games during the 2016 season as a nod to the fearsome foursome era. The Rams wore their alternative royal blue and gold throwback uniforms for the other 2 games at the Coliseum and wore their midnight blue jerseys at their international game at Twickenham Stadium. Throughout the 2016 season, the Rams signage around the stadium, end zones, and other uses of the logo showed a variation that was only colored in blue and white, leading some fans to believe the team's upcoming rebrand would involve gold being completely dropped from the color scheme. For the 2017 season, the Rams announced they would be wearing helmets similar to the fearsome foursome era, millennium blue helmets with white helmet horns, and voted on by fans, a white face mask. Fans also voted for new pants design, which was a single blue stripe down the side of white pants, as well as an inverse design for road games. The team also began using the blue and white logo as their primary logo, confirming that they would be phasing out gold from their color scheme, although gold remained on the jerseys due to an NFL rule that teams must have the same jersey design for at least a minimum of 5 seasons. The Rams also announced a fan vote via Twitter to decide which 2 home games they would wear throwback uniforms. Fans selected the October 8, 2017 game against the Seahawks and the December 31st, 2017 game against the 49ers. The same 2 opponents the Rams wore throwbacks against the prior season. In their Week 3 road game against the 49ers, the Rams also participated in the NFL Color Rush, wearing throwback-style all-yellow uniforms with blue detailing and blue numbers, as well as yellow horns on the helmets and white stripes outlined in blue on the pants. On July 27, 2018, the Rams announced that they would wear their throwback royal blue and yellow primary color uniform for home games at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum for the 2018 season. In conjunction with the change, the team retired its navy blue and metallic gold uniform. The Rams' white uniform remained unchanged, and its one alternate uniform is the yellow Color Rush uniform. Additionally, the team confirmed their new rebrand would take place in 2020 to coincide with the opening of their new home stadium, SoFi Stadium. On March 23, 2020, the Rams officially unveiled a new logo set and color scheme. The new primary logo features stylized LA lettering with a ram's horn forming and spiraling out of the top of the A, with gradients to show curvature similar to a real ram's horn. A website showcasing the new look says the letters were included, ensuring that the Rams are forever tied to the city of Los Angeles. The secondary logo is a ram's head that combines several elements from previous logos of the team. New word marks were introduced as well, and the team's new colors were revealed as Rams Royal and Soul. Despite the optimism of the Rams design team, the logo was very poorly received by a majority of the fan base. COO Kevin Demoff stated that the 2 key elements the team kept in mind were the horns, which had long been symbolic of the team, and the royal blue and yellow color scheme. Demoff stated that the team had studied every single previous look for inspiration, and the goal was to weave together this history into a new modern look, respecting our past and representing our future. The Rams officially revealed the club's new uniform designs on May 13, 2020. The team initially introduced 3 combinations, 2 of which included a royal blue jersey with yellow and white gradient numbers, as well as yellow sleeve striping similar to the new shape of the horns. Blue pants with similar gradient stripes were introduced, alongside yellow pants with solid white and blue stripes. The road jersey was given a new bone gray color, which featured white and yellow sleeve patterns and blue numbers. Bone gray pants were featured alongside the road jersey, which included a white stripe and a thinner yellow stripe. All 3 combinations used a brand new metallic blue helmet design, featuring blue face masks and the new styling of the horns similar to the team's logo. Later, however, the Rams wore 3 additional combinations: blue jerseys and bone gray pants, bone gray jerseys and blue pants, and bone gray jerseys and yellow pants. They also wore bone gray socks as a variation to their all-bone gray look. On July 13, 2021, the Rams unveiled a white alternate uniform. This set was a modernized version of the team's 1973 to 1999 road uniform set, complete with blue rounded numbers and Rams patch on the left shoulder. Initially, the Rams wore yellow pants with the alternate white uniforms, but in Week 10 of the 2021 season, they wore blue pants with this set. The Rams chose the white alternates with yellow pants as their Super Bowl 56 uniform. On July 30th, 2022, the Rams announced that the white uniform would supplant the bone uniform as its primary road uniform. On April 25th, 2025, Nike and the NFL announced Rivalries, a series of location-inspired uniforms to be worn for one game during each of the next 3 seasons by each team from 2 divisions, the first 2 of which being the NFC West and AFC East. On August 28th, the Rams revealed the Rivalry uniform, which featured a primary color of midnight blue, a darkened, nearly black shade of blue. The horns on each sleeve remained yellow, but were slightly reshaped to be more similar to the team's vintage sleeve horn designs. The sleeves also featured royal blue, which faded into midnight blue via a gradient pattern inspired by the roofing texture pattern at SoFi Stadium. The uniform's numbers were white and featured perforated pattern that also took inspiration from the stadium's roof. The base color of the helmet and face mask was changed from royal blue to midnight blue. Season by season record. The table below shows the 5 most recent NFL regular season records along with the respective finish in the NFL playoffs. Los Angeles Rams appeared in the postseason in 4 of the 5 last seasons, including a Super Bowl championship in the 2021 NFL season and an appearance in the Super Bowl, the first since 2001 after the 2018 NFL season. Recent notable honors with members of the Los Angeles Rams include NFL Coach of the Year 2017 for Sean McVay and Super Bowl MVP for Cooper Kupp in 2021. All right, I'm not reading everything on the table. There is a link in the description to the actual article. Go check that out if you would like to see that. As always, for the notable players in the current roster, we do the same thing. Again, check the article because it may have changed. All right, retired numbers. Numbers that have been retired by the Rams. Number 7, Bob Waterfield, quarterback. Number 28, Marshall Faulk, running back. Number 29, Eric Dickerson, running back. Number 74, Merlin Olsen, defensive tackle. Number 75, Deacon Jones, defensive end. Number 78, Jackie Slater, offensive tackle. Number 80, Isaac Bruce, wide receiver. And number 85, Jack Youngblood, defensive end. Hall of Famers. Former Rams in the Pro Football Hall of Fame include Joe Namath, Marshall Faulk, Ollie Matson, Orlando Pace, Andy Robustelli, Dick Night Train Lane, Kurt Warner, and Coach Earl Dutch Clark. 3 other figures associated with the Rams are members of the Hall of Fame, but were elected more on the basis of their accomplishments outside the Rams. Sid Gilman, inducted as a coach, was head coach for 5 seasons, but had his greatest success in the same position with the San Diego Chargers. Pete Rozelle, inducted as a contributor, served the Rams as public relations director and later general manager, but his induction was based mainly on his 29 years as NFL commissioner. Tex Schramm, also inducted as a contributor, was a Rams executive for 9 years, but had his greatest impact as president and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys for their first 29 years of existence. Gil Brandt, also inducted as a contributor, was a Rams scout for 3, but like Schramm, his greatest impact was his involvement with the Dallas Cowboys for their first 29 years of existence. All right. Cleveland, St. Louis, Los Angeles Rams Hall of Famers. We're going to skip reading that list. St. Louis Football Ring of Fame. Former Rams were inducted into the St. Louis Football Ring of Fame, which was located in the Dome at America's Center. All players included are Hall of Famers, but there have been a few exceptions for team executives and coaches. Notable coaches, head coaches. There's a separate article for a list of Rams head coaches. And of course, here's the list of current staff, which again, we are going to skip. That's linked down below. Radio and television, again, we are skipping that. It's mostly about licensing and, on-air, personalities. And I'll be honest, at this point, it's almost 2 hours long for this video, so we're going to skip that, which we've been skipping those recently anyways. And that actually brings us to the end. Finally, I was wondering if this was ever going to finish. See also the history of the National Football League in Los Angeles. So that was a lot. Normally the team videos don't go on this long, so I do apologize if you're here to the end. Absolutely, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for checking this out. I do hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more of these. But overall, really interesting. Like, usually when I see a team that's moving around a lot, it's usually because of like poor performance. But the Rams have generally had decent performance, so it's kind of interesting that they've moved around as much as they have. But overall, interesting read. Sometimes I think that the articles do need a little bit more tightening up, especially around the history, because it's always very condensed on the older years. But then as it gets to the more current years, it's like, oh, somebody goes in and puts in a summary for like 2024. But then when somebody comes in to do 2025, they don't bother to condense 24. And so we just end up with these huge, huge sections. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking. It's been long enough. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, drop a comment down below. Let me know something else you'd like to know more about. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.